Welcome to The Point, your focus on what matters. And here we don't just recount the biggest headlines, we break them down to see the real-life impacts. I'm Huyền Trân, and here is what we're looking at today. Now, around the world, countries are stepping up efforts to tackle climate change and accelerate the search for cleaner sources of energy. And alongside renewables such as solar and wind power, green hydrogen is moving fast, from laboratory trials to industrial-scale production and commercial use. In Spain, electricity was recently fed into the national grid for the first time, using an engine powered entirely by hydrogen. And around the world, car makers have also introduced hydrogen-powered vehicles. And Vietnam is also facing a new opportunity. With offshore wind potential, a long coastline, and abundant solar energy, the country has important inputs for green hydrogen production. Green hydrogen is produced through water electrolysis using electricity generated entirely from renewable sources, such as solar, wind, or hydropower. The process produces no carbon dioxide emissions, and unlike electricity, hydrogen can be stored and transported on a large scale. It can also generate the high heat needed for heavy industries, including steel making, cement, oil and gas, and chemicals, or be used as fuel for shipping and aviation. That is why hydrogen has been part of national energy security strategies across Europe, the United States, Japan, and South Korea for more than a decade. And according to the Ministry of Industry and Trade's plan, Vietnam could produce between 100,000 and 500,000 tons of clean hydrogen a year. So where does Vietnam stand in this emerging market, and what policies are needed to support green hydrogen development here? That is our focus on The Point today. And joining us is Ms. Đỗ Thị Lan Anh, the Energy Advisor of the GIZ International Hydrogen Ramp-Up Program H2UP in Vietnam.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here today.
Yes. So let us start with the bigger picture now. GIZ has been working with Vietnam in energy transition for many years. So from your perspective, how do you assess Vietnam's potential and development in green hydrogen? And also, what would you say is the biggest competitive advantage of Vietnam when comparing with other countries in Southeast Asia?
Vietnam has strong potential to become one of the leading green hydrogen producers in the Southeast Asia. The country benefits from its abundant renewable energy resource, particularly wind and solar power. Vietnam is also demonstrating increasing commitment to the energy transitions through its net zero targets by 2050. The national hydrogen strategies and the ongoing reform in the power sectors. These policy developments send positive signals to the investors. In addition, Vietnam has a growing demand for decarbonizations from industries and export-oriented sectors such as steel, chemicals, fertilizers, and transport. This creates an important domestic demand for green hydrogens, while at the same time opening opportunities for exports to international markets. Vietnam has the potential to become a regional hub for the productions, transportation, and export of green hydrogens and its derivatives.
Yes, so we do know that green hydrogen actually requires a large supply of renewable electricity, especially from wind and power, as well as advanced electrolyzer technology. So in Vietnam, is the current power grid and renewable energy infrastructure in Vietnam is capable of supporting the development that we aim to achieve?
As mentioned in the previous questions, Vietnam has made remarkable progress in the renewable energy deployment over the past several years, particularly in solar and wind power, which provides a solid foundation for the green hydrogen's development. However, if most equipment continue to be imported, or key services such as operations and maintenance, or O&M in abbreviations, rely heavily on the external suppliers. Production costs will remain high, and despite the availabilities of renewable resources. Therefore, long-term competitiveness will require greater localizations of the hydrogen's value chain, Moreover, producing green hydrogen at commercial scale requires not only sufficient renewable generations, but also reliable electricity supply, adequate grid capacities, and efficient transmission infrastructures.
Now, major economies no longer see green hydrogen only as a climate solution. They also see it as a strategic industry that could shape future energy security and geopolitical position. And for Vietnam, cooperation with international companies in research, testing, and commercialization can help accelerate technology adoption and also lay the groundwork for the country to join the global clean energy market. And although the sector is still in its early stages, Vietnam's green hydrogen market is already drawing growing interest from foreign investors.
As one of the world's largest privately owned industrial gases companies with more than 125 years of experience, Messer is expanding its investment in Vietnam. The company's first commercial-scale green hydrogen production project in Vietnam, developed in partnership with Interpol, is expected to begin operations in September this year.
With a GDP growth of 8 to 10%, investment of new companies in the electronics, in automotive, in many industries where you need more and more quality, so you need more and more high purity gas, but also hydrogen is part of this mix. So all that makes that the industrial gas will continue to grow, and that with company like Messer, we will continue to develop and to bring more expertise and low carbon gases.
Since May 2026, the Power to Liquid pilot project, which studies the use of green hydrogen combined with sustainable carbon sources to produce fuel, has been underway. This is a collaboration between the Vietnam Petroleum Refining and Petrochemical Corporation and the German International Cooperation Organization. Though still in the pre-feasibility study phase, the project is expected to lay the foundation for a low-emission fuel chain serving aviation and maritime transport.
Để thương mại hóa và sản xuất được cái lượng lớn thì rõ ràng nó sẽ có mấy yếu tố quyết định. Thứ nhất là cái nguồn cung ổn định, phải có những cái dự án điện gió là rất lớn. Mà Việt Nam là một cái tiềm năng rất là cao, tại vì cái bờ biển rất là dài. Cái thứ hai là cái chất lượng nó ổn định. Và thứ ba là có cái chi phí sản xuất có nghĩa là ở đây là phù hợp, có nghĩa là chấp nhận được.
Hiện nay chúng ta đã có cái nhu cầu sử dụng hydrogen trong công nghiệp, ví dụ trong các nhà máy lọc hóa dầu, ví dụ như trong các cái nhà máy sản xuất phân đạm, ví dụ trong các cái nhà máy sản xuất linh kiện điện tử hay trong các cái cơ sở sản xuất kính nổi, chúng ta đều có nhu cầu và đâu đó cỡ khoảng 500.000 tấn trong một năm.
According to experts, the increased investment by foreign businesses is seen as a strategic leverage for Vietnam's green hydrogen sector. It can also address bottleneck in capital, core technology, and output markets, while accelerating the commercialization and completion of the value chain from production and storage to distribution of green hydrogen.
In Vietnam's case, what do you identify as the biggest challenge that is still hindering the progress of Vietnam's green hydrogen market?
In fact, the challenge Vietnam is facing are similar with other countries around the world. According to IEA reports in 2024, although the numbers of the announced hydrogen projects continue to grow, only around 7% of the announced electrolyzer hydrogen production capacities has reached a final investment decision. This demonstrates that the biggest challenge today is no longer the technology itself, but the abilities to deploy the projects on a commercial scale. The key global bottlenecks include the high production costs comparing with the fossil fuel-based hydrogens, limited market demand, and long-term offtake agreements. Many projects struggle to secure financings because they lack committed buyers for hydrogens and its derivatives. Another challenge is financings. You know that green hydrogen projects require high capex investment and have long payback periods, and also face uncertainties related to the technologies, markets, development, and policies.
In 2024, the Prime Minister of Vietnam officially approved the strategy for the development of hydrogen energy in Vietnam until 2030. However, in addition to building a legal framework to promote green hydrogen, it is also important to seek solutions for infrastructure development, technology, and boosting of market demand.
One of the key requirements for developing green hydrogen is a sufficiently large source of renewable energy, including wind and solar power. This floating solar power system, with a capacity of 252 kilowatt peak, has been in operation since the beginning of 2025. Unlike ground-mounted and rooftop solar power systems, it makes full use of surface water without affecting the company's land area. This is also an approach being adopted in many countries around the world.
Với cái số lượng sông ngòi, ao hồ, hồ chứa và thủy điện rất là lớn của Việt Nam, thì điện năng lượng mặt trời nổi đang là một tiềm năng rất là lớn và chắc chắn là sẽ bùng nổ trong thời gian tới.
Projects like these do more than generate clean electricity. They provide the renewable power needed to produce green hydrogen. Renewable energy is a starting point of Vietnam's emerging green hydrogen value chain.
However, domestic demand for green hydrogen remains limited because its production cost is around 5 times higher than that of gray hydrogen produced from coal. To address this challenge, Vietnam has identified exports as a potential solution. This direction is included in the country's hydrogen development strategy to 2030, as well as in the revised National Energy Master Plan.
Có những cái nhà đầu tư người ta có thể tiếp cận theo hướng khác, ví dụ là sản xuất ở hydrogen tại Việt Nam nhưng là bán với những thị trường mà người ta chấp nhận được cái giá như vậy, như sang Nhật chẳng hạn.
Hydrogen xanh nó là một cái sản phẩm mới. Ta phải có những đầu tư thích đáng cho cái việc nâng cao năng lực để có thể nội địa hóa cái quá trình sản xuất, quá trình điện phân nước để sản xuất ra hydrogen xanh. Chúng ta phải thúc đẩy rất mạnh cái đối tác công tư. Chúng ta phải có những cơ chế, có những công cụ tài chính, ví dụ như là tài chính xanh để hỗ trợ cho các cái doanh nghiệp.
Globally, green hydrogen is still at an early stage of development and has yet to become a widely used energy source. However, many countries have already begun investing in technology, infrastructure, and supportive policies in preparation for the global energy transition.
So we know that Germany is one of the world's leaders in hydrogen energy. What is one lesson or successful model from Germany or Europe that Vietnam can adopt in its own application and development of green hydrogen?
Experience from Europeans and many other countries show that the success hydrogen markets are built on the combinations of the transparent regulations and clear market signals, and also the targeted policy support during the early stage of market development. So for more details, the markets will need the clear technical standards and regulations, including the legal definitions of green hydrogen certifications, certification system aligned with the international standards, as well as the safety, the transportations, or the storage regulations. Next, it will need the mechanism to create the markets, such as carbon pricings, decarbonization targets, or the incentive, especially in hard-to-abate sectors. Investment support mechanism is also necessary to reduce the risk of the first-mover projects, including grants, risk-sharing mechanism, or the contracts that improve the project's bankabilities. And in addition, in Germany or in Europe, there are different initiatives such as the European Hydrogen Bank or the Germany's H2 Global share a same objective to bridge the cost gap between the renewable and fossil-based hydrogens, stimulate early market demands, and have the projects reach the final investment decisions.
Well, once again, thank you for joining us in the studio today and sharing your insights.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Now, green hydrogen is not only an energy story, it is also expected to create new growth opportunities for the economy. Combined with offshore wind, LNG, petrochemicals, and modern marine industries, hydrogen could help form large-scale industrial and energy centers, create high-quality jobs, attract investment, and strengthen national competitiveness. And that also brings us to the end of this edition of The Point. Thank you for watching, and goodbye for now.